Okay, I don't want to waste your time, but basically, immersion is just not enough. Essentially, at the end of the day, if you are thinking to yourself that I'm going to learn this language just by reading and listening and using Stephen Krashen and Steve Kaufman's method, this just is not going to work well with Chinese. If you want to take it to the next level and say speak and even just listen to stuff, you will need to put hard work in. Audio flashcards and or even just seeing a tutor will do a lot better than just passively, or not even just passively, but reading and listening. It's just not enough. Because you're not focusing in on what you don't know. And plus, with a language like Chinese, yes, your brain will detect the characters because a character is essentially a mnemonic, which is embedding the morphology of that word into the paper, onto the screen or the paper, or the sign or whatever, onto the wall. But here's the thing: the actual sounds in Chinese are very different to the sounds being used in English. And if you only hear the sounds, like you're not texting someone, you're not reading the subtitles, you're not reading a book, well, you're going to come into issues here. The biggest issue really is your brain will seek out, with, let's say, a language like Norwegian or Dutch or German. It's well, these languages have massive similarities of English. Your brain will look for cognates. And since there's a shared vocabulary, your brain can, in those languages, latch onto the cognates, especially in languages like Norwegian and Dutch. There's a lot of cognates there. Without these cognates, your brain just can't latch onto anything, and your brain will begin to make mistakes. There's a lot of things that English speakers will do with, say, Chinese grammar particles and words, and your brain will start to think that it does this in that language when it actually doesn't, because your brain is going to push English onto that language, especially if you're an English speaker, native English speaker. And this is the issue you're going to come into, which is why essentially a tutor is necessary, because they're going to intervene and prevent these bad habits from fossilizing. And this is why I'm saying that maybe seeking out a tutor is probably, something you should be doing. And you can get them for quite cheap online, and you can even just see one once every week or even once every 2 weeks if you don't really have the money. Another thing would be, using Anki, which I've been doing more so recently, and going through, if you don't have to go through the entire deck if the session gets quite long, but going through, say, different grammar structures on Anki. And essentially what this is going to do is this is going to help your controlled output. Because without practicing these grammar structures, you're going to run into a lot of issues. You cannot be speaking Chinese with English structure. You also cannot be recognizing these sounds using English phonology. You just can't do that. It is a different machine, it's a different beast. Like my Chinese reading has got, it's developed. It's got quite good. Like I've way above all the Mandarin companions. I'm almost completely finished with all the main stories on Do Chinese. Still got a lot of articles, but all the main stories, almost all of them are done. In fact, there's only two left, and they're at the master level. And I'm now reading Journey to the West by Imaginatic Press. This one's quite difficult. I'm not going to say I'm going to finish this anytime soon, as you can see. But my point is that yes, my reading is developing. But I've been seeing a tutor recently, and she's been quite surprised because I can hear and read some very advanced things, but then when it comes to low like level stuff, like even HSK1 or HSK2, I've actually will sometimes have issues. Like I have strengths in areas that she just doesn't expect me to have strengths in, and then weaknesses in areas she doesn't expect me to have weaknesses in. So, because I have self-taught largely for quite a long time, and I've self-taught for reading. So, and I'm reading things that I'm actually interested in, but then that develops knowledge in it develops knowledge in a very weird way, especially if you're not really practicing speaking and you're not really practicing listening on itself. Like you're not only listening and transcribing what you're listening to. If you're doing listening and reading at the same time, your brain is very lazy. It's going to latch onto the reading. So, look, I'm repeating myself a bit here, but maybe think about doing some Anki cards related to listening. Like get some listening practice in, or try transcribing very basic beginner comprehensible inputs, or if you have the money, go see a tutor, because comprehensible inputs will, with a language like Chinese, it will increase your reading, but your other communication skills are going to massively lag behind.